You're listening to Three Kitchens Podcast, hosted by Aaron Walker and Heather Dyer. Tune in weekly to get inspired and make good food. Hello and happy August, listeners. This is Aaron Walker and
me. I'm Heather Dyer. It's the time of year here.
We're wrapping up the summer.
Here in our part of the world, kids are getting ready to go back to school, which means parents like us are getting ready to do the dreaded chore of packing lunches.
Yeah.
And it's not just for school. Maybe you go to an office and you pack. I used to take a lunch to the office.
That's the number one way to cut food costs, is not to eat out at lunch when you're working an office job. Packing a lunch is a smart idea, and it doesn't have to be
leftovers in a Tupperware that you heat up in the office microwave and everyone's like, ugh, what are you eating?
Yeah, there are so many good things that you can pack in your lunch where people will be like, damn, I want to eat that. And so much of the stuff that you buy when you're eating out, it's like, you could make that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So this episode we've got for you, we actually recorded 2 years ago, and it's called Bento because a bento is a boxed lunch. And we talk about a few ideas of what you can put in your bento to take for lunch. Some snacks, some savory hot stuff.
I'm baking bread because I feel like having a good, hearty, filling, resilient, tasty bread is what makes it all good.
One of the main things we talk about in this episode is planning ahead, doing some batch cooking and baking and freezing so that when you're hurrying to make that lunch, whether you make it the night before or the morning of, you've got stuff ready to go. You can just pull it out and either warm it up or pop it in frozen and have it by lunchtime. It's thawed out.
Yeah.
So we're trying to help everyone be a little bit prepared.
We're ready for this. We're going to prepare. We're going to plan. We want to feel calm and relaxed about that first day. And it helps the kids to know what they're going to get too. Sometimes that can be a point of anxiety for the kids, being like, oh my God, what's going to be in my lunch? What am I going to eat? And so having them know that they've got some pumpkin spice donuts coming. And we've got some great savory main from our co-host Sarah, who used to join us in our first couple seasons of podcasting. Yeah, she is the queen of batch cooking, freezing, and make ahead meals.
I mean, really, her lunch boxes are other level.
Yeah.
But you don't have to, you can keep it simple too. When we say bento, don't think, oh no, I can't do that because that's like those super fancy, everything is cut into shapes and themes and whatever. You don't know. Aaron and I don't do that.
No.
So you don't have to either. Maybe it's cheese and crackers and pepperoni sticks. That happens in my kids' lunches fairly regularly. So,
come on, we're packing charcuterie for our kids. Let's call it what it is.
Oh, that's so good.
We're gonna pop this one out of the vault for you so that you can get some fresh ideas for back to school. And we are going to take a break next week as we prepare for a whole new season full of episodes.
Season 4.
I think we spent the last hour and a half on here talking about what's coming up before we actually hit the record button. We're going to be talking to some really interesting people, especially for parents. If you're a parent tuning into this and you struggle with some of the foods that your kids eat or don't eat, we're going to be kicking off talking to a nutritionist who specializes in picky eaters. We have a guaranteed dinner recipe that is going to kick ass.
That's a good one. It's a really good one.
So Heather and I will be back. You'll miss us for a week.
And then we're right back into it. Weekly episodes. Nonstop. Yeah. Can't stop, won't stop.
Cooking all the food.
We're talking about some tips and tricks for food and for ourselves and for the kids.
Yeah. Lunches. It's something we always hate. Like at the end of school year, we're like, thank God we don't have to do lunches for 2 whole months. Because I
always joke and say lunch is a 4-letter word. So Sarah, you always call your lunches a bento. or a bento box. You've got all these bento boxes for lunch kits.
I have a problem. I have a whole shelf of different kinds of bento
really
boxes.
like popped up more so in the grocery store too. Like now I notice there's so much more out there. So what makes a bento a bento, Sarah?
Bento simply means a packed meal. That's it. So like a lunchbox, like a lunch to take out of the house and eat somewhere else. And so a bento box is just a lunchbox. And that's as simple as it gets. And of course, you know, it can get more complicated if you see what some people do with their bento boxes, you know, depending on what it's inspired by and how it's packed. They're called different kinds of bentos. So certain bentos are traditional, and then some are inspired by landscape. So you'll see a lot of like, it looks like trees and flowers, and then some are really cutesy bentos, and we're not getting into all that stuff today, but...
Are you going to be using your food tweezers in this episode,
Sarah?
Oh,
yes, of course.
Oh, good. Excellent.
Oh, boy.
It makes me think of, remember that video that was going around, or maybe there was more than one, I don't know, for a while, where it's like the side by side and there's a dad in like a robe and he's trying to follow along with the woman packing her bento. Like he's looking at it like she's completely insane, and he's throwing in like his, what is that little Lunchable made cheese and crackers.
A celery stick, like he just throws it right into the bag. Like, I've had it. I can't keep up.
You see those things and you think, wow, like I wish I could have, like, if you saw Sarah's kids' lunches, you would think, wow, I bet my kids would love a lunch like that, but they're not getting it. Like, they might get the celery stick.
Yeah, exactly. The lunch prep can be daunting. Yeah. Oh, there's my bread beeping.
She's baking bread right now. She's got to run and get it out of the oven. Yeah, it's timely.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm always making this bread. So.
Well, why don't we start with talking about your bread? Because that was one thing you wanted to talk about. Okay.
Well, you know, I just popped my bread out of the oven.
Yes.
How did it go there?
How does it look?
It's hot. My house smells like fresh baked bread, but it's something that I have now done consistently for the last 5 years.
Longer, for sure, because I remember the time I met you and you were making it then.
And I was still making it then. So I wouldn't keep doing this and making this bread if it took too much effort. As long as you give yourself that time where it sits, it takes almost nothing to do.
Is it an overnight rest? Like, do you make it the night before? Yeah.
It is. It is one of my favorite chefs. I'm now at stalker level on Facebook with him. It says I'm a top fan, and I'm like, whoa, time to back off. I don't know what that means. And that makes me a little bit nervous. So I'm, you know, trying to like and comment less on his stuff. But so he's a Canadian chef named Michael Smith.
And you've met him.
I was starstruck and super excited about that. I used to watch him on Food Network. He does a lot of cooking with fire, which, you know, is, you know, right up there on my favorite things. So his recipe in his cookbook, Back to Basics from 2013, he has a heritage bread that is no knead, super simple overnight bread. He says you could make the dough in 60 seconds, skip the hassle of kneading, and just let it sit overnight.
Is it really 60 seconds, would you say?
You know, if you've got all your stuff out, it is like measure, dump, measure, stir, done.
Yeah. Okay. It's easy.
Yeah. So you mix together your dry ingredients, you add water to it, you cover it, and it sits overnight. It's a very wet dough. It makes a very moist bread. In the morning, once it's done all of its rising and bubbling, it smells nice and fermented and yeasty and doughy. I don't know. I love that smell in the morning. But you just punch it down. I add more flour because it's a very sticky dough. Okay. So I just sprinkle flour on it until I can kind of handle it. I ball it up and toss it into my loaf pan, preheat my oven, bake it for 40 minutes, and you have a loaf of bread. You feel a little bit of pressure to want to pack something good for your kids. I don't mind making like a sandwich because it's on good bread.
Right.
So, you know, when my kids want to get up in the morning, they want to have toast. You know, I feel like they're not just eating sugar.
Like overly processed.
What, like the Eggos my kids eat is just not cutting it, or what? It's not every day.
I add a whole bunch of more stuff to it. He says you can freestyle your own ideas with this bread. And that's exactly what I do. So I add flax seeds, hemp seeds, millet, and I just mix it all in there with my yeast, the salt, the flour. I add in a bit of whole wheat flour. So it's mostly white flour and just a little bit of whole wheat.
Okay.
It's a good hearty bread. It fills them up.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Once this loaf has cooled down, you can slice it all up. I totally get why the best thing since sliced bread is a saying, because slicing bread can be kind of a pain in the butt, but you can do it ahead of time with this.
Oh my God, my stomach is like, give me bread now.
Yes.
So if you've packed a nice healthy sandwich on some yummy bread, what do you put on the side?
Why not some more bread products? Because
why not?
Let's just fill them with carbs.
Listen, they're small. They run around a lot. They burn it off
fast. Yeah,
totally. And it's brain food too.
Yeah. So maybe we don't always want all the carbs.
We have enough brains.
We're already smart enough.
Part of my routine during the school year is on Sunday, usually Sunday, but sometime on the weekend, I bake something that's going to go in as the snack / treat / carb filler in the lunch. Right. Usually it's muffins, but I have to switch it up every week because if I get lazy and make banana muffins every week, they're going to tell me they're sick of them, which I totally get. Totally fine. So muffins or a loaf, some of our favorite ones. I like the Fuel to Go muffin. It's online and it's full of zucchini, it's carrot, it's apple, it's a bunch of seeds, dried fruit. You can put anything in it and it's like a dense, yummy,
energy packed.
Yeah, that's why it's called Fuel to Go.
That's great.
Okay.
I like that one myself. Even if I'm going to have a snack like that, I like that it's got the fruit, the vegetables, a whole bunch of stuff that's going to fill me up, and the kids like it.
With zucchinis, you have too much at once, right? That's always the way it goes. So you can actually grate them and then freeze them in 1 cup portions and bake with them all year long.
We love the chocolate zucchini muffins.
Yes.
Especially because the zucchini makes it moist and it's like it's more like a cupcake. Yeah. But it has zucchini in it. So it's really yummy. Sometimes instead of a muffin, I'll do a donut. You can use the same recipe, just baked in a different shape. And the kids are like, donut. And they think it's really special. And or use cake. Thing. If you don't want to make it from scratch, get a cake mix. I have these really great silicone donut pans, bake up perfectly. They pop out. They're easy to clean, super fast.
Nice.
My favorite donut recipe is a pumpkin baked donut from Sally's Baking Addiction. Great recipe. And then sometimes I ice them. You guys have had those. When I've made them, but also you can just kind of dip them a little bit in some cinnamon sugar when you bring them out of the oven, pop them out and just sort of dust them with cinnamon sugar, and they're yummy. You don't have to ice them and it looks like a nice treat. This is beautiful donut in the lunchbox. The kids love them. And in a pinch, if you don't have time to bake, just make Rice Krispie squares because the kids always love them.
Yeah.
And if it's once in a while, it's not the Fuel, but it's a treat.
Have you ever mixed seeds into your Rice Krispie squares?
Seeds? No.
Yeah. I had Rice Krispie squares once that had dates, pumpkin seeds, and sunflower seeds mixed into it. And it was so good.
That sounds yummy.
It added a little, the kids are kind of, because the texture and the seeds. But, if you do it a couple times, it's not like you can pick each seed out. You just got to eat it. And then it's at least adding a little bit, something more to it.
Oh, that's
I like
a good
this idea. Yeah.
All of these things, they're all freezable, right? You can make a big batch of them and then put them in the freezer, and then you don't have to worry about what to give your kids for the next few days. Right?
Pop it out frozen. A frozen muffin in the lunchbox is thawed. Almost, I'd say perfectly by the time they eat it at lunchtime. And if you need a little something cold in there with your veggies or whatever, you've got your frozen muffin. Done.
That's a good idea.
There you go. That's all I got to say about lunches. I'm curious what Sarah's got for us. Hey, Erin, do we ever tell people that we have a website? I
think so. It's in our show notes.
We have a website and we post the recipes from our episodes. And we also have recipes on there that have not made it onto an episode. It's just stuff that we've cooked, tested out, and that we love.
Like what you did with that lamb short rib. That was delicious.
That's right. I make donuts with pancake mix. I have that kid who doesn't like to eat pancakes, but he'll eat one in a donut pan.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a way to do something a little bit different, we've got multiple options for you to explore.
And of course, all of our episodes, including the Speakeasy bonus episodes and the drink recipes, it's all on there. So visit us over at threekitchenspodcast.com.
I've got 3 things.
Lunch.
And I'm going to refer you to a great website called Just One Cookbook. And I'm going to start off with chicken meatballs. So you can make this out of chicken, you can make this out of pork, you can make this out of beef, whatever you like. It's extremely easy, okay? And the nice thing is if you make a big batch of it, you freeze it on parchment paper on a flat pan. And once they're frozen, throw them into a Ziploc bag. So whenever the kids want a quick lunch or you want to have a quick dinner, all you do is take out these meatballs, you cook them, and you make this sauce, which is a sweet and sour sauce. And all it has is ketchup, mirin, soy sauce, rice vinegar, sugar, and sake. If you don't have cooking sake, then you can use like a cooking wine, like whatever. And it's so easy. I can't, like, you know, when they say meals in 30 minutes or less, this is a meal in 30 minutes or less. All you have to do is make those meatballs and freeze them. Good to go.
So if you're putting them in the kids' lunch, you would take them out the night before to thaw them out. Would you cook them the night before?
You could cook them the night before, or you could cook them in the morning. It's up to you. I like to do things the night before because I am not a morning person.
Yeah.
And so then I just cook them and I cool them down and I put them in the fridge. And all you can do is then warm them up in the morning if you'd like in the microwave or whatnot. And that sauce you can make the night before too. It takes, honestly, like a minute to make that sauce.
Okay, how are you packaging them in the kids'
I like to
lunch?
put them on rice because it's got that nice sauce on it, and that's their lunch.
In what sort of container are you putting? This is where I'm at. Like I have the plastic lunchbox with the little compartments. It doesn't have
it doesn't seal.
No, am I putting it in a Tupperware and then trying to fit it in the box, or what am I doing?
Okay, so I have
I know you have all the things.
I have all the bento boxes. I have a bento box specifically for their lunches when I make lunches like this. Because there's sauce in it and because there are different aspects in it, I don't like my bento to move. I like them to open it and it be pretty inside. I've got some, issues.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
So I have specific lunch boxes that are small enough for just one meal, and then their snack is packed separately. In that case, I also do have containers like you do, Heather, for different kinds of meals, right? But for those rice meals, that's how I like to pack them.
So it's not like a thermos container that keeps it warm or anything like that.
I don't bother with those things. By the time lunch comes around, it's going to be room temperature food.
Great idea.
The tip I have for meatballs is have a little ice cream scoop, like the smaller ones.
Yes.
And then you just start popping. Like it takes no time to do this, and like you would be so happy you put the time into making a big batch of this, right? Because it's so simple.
Okay, I just before you move on, I have one little suggestion. One thing I've done in the past is make sausage rolls using puff pastry that you buy, the frozen puff pastry.
Yeah.
I'm thinking you could wrap your meatball first. You'd wrap it up like you would a sausage roll, put your meatball in your puff pastry, bake it.
Would you freeze it before you baked it or after you baked it?
After
you baked it.
That's what I did with the sausage rolls.
Okay.
And those transported well. And I'm just thinking like a tasty meatball in a little puff pastry would be really yummy.
I'm going to do that. Thank you. I like that idea.
Variety.
It's a spice of life, ladies.
That's right. My next one is dumplings, people.
We love Sarah's dumplings.
Okay. I usually have like 5 different kinds of dumplings made and frozen in my freezer because that is one of the easiest, zhuzh up, amazing meals that I produce. in, again, less than 30 minutes because I put the effort into it before.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to refer you to justonecookbook.com, gyoza, Gyoza. They're Japanese pot stickers, so they're pan fried. I make massive batches of this. And here's the fun part of dumplings. Put whatever you want into it.
Yeah.
You can do the traditional stuff or you can do whatever you'd like. But once you put them on a parchment paper on that pan, freeze them. And once they're frozen, again, throw them into a Ziploc bag and they're ready to go. And then the third one that I think has been a lifesaver for me is a recipe called Jason's Grandma's 2-Hour Buns on dinnerwithjulie.com.
And I, the novice bread maker, I've made this recipe a number of times as well. And it's like foolproof dinner roll. Totally.
What I like to do with these dinner rolls is I stuff them. So I've stuffed them with meatballs. I've stuffed them with ham and cheese. I've stuffed them with whatever leftover stuff that I have, whatever you'd like, whatever your kids like.
Yeah.
Again, and then bake them, cool them down, and then I throw them again into a Ziploc bag. Again, so easy. You just take it out of that freezer, warm it up, throw it into their bento boxes. And you've got, if you can just put that weekend away or some time away to make these 3 things, you've got lunches made for the next 2 weeks. I just also wanted to just quickly touch on this for our gluten sensitive friends. There is something called onigiris, and it's Onigiri. Look it up. Again, it's an extremely easy thing to make in the morning. All you have to do is have rice ready. You put the rice into a mold. You make a little hole in the mold. You put whatever filling you want into it, a little rice, more rice on top, press it, and you've got an absolutely delicious kind of rice sandwich, let's say, to go.
Yes.
And that's another really, like, there's so many easy recipes out there that I think sometimes we avoid because we've never made them before, and you'll be surprised at how easy they are.
Even I have made those.
I think with all those recipes, I think we're a little bit more prepared for back to school stuff.
Yeah. And make it easy on yourself.
And the key is prep.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, if you have it written down for yourself as to what you're putting in that lunch, it's one less thing that needs to like ride on your brainwaves.
There have been previous episodes where, you know, Erin brought those empanadas from Francis. I love making big batches of those and freezing them. They are perfect for it. We've talked about bows. If you want to go down there, that is something that is, again, very freezable. Lots of things, guys. I just think make massive batches of them and freeze them, and you will be so thankful for that.
Lots of options. Good luck until you run out of steam. You run out of steam in like February and you're like, fuck it. I'm just sending like Lunchables or whatever. I've never bought it, but I'm like, maybe I'll resort to that at some point.
Something's got to give, right?
But now we've got the time. We're gonna put the effort in and we're gonna hit the ground running.
And now for the fine print. Join us over on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and on our website at threekitchenspodcast.com. Remember, when you like, follow, subscribe, and leave a review, it helps more people find us. Thank you so much for listening.
Can you make me some of those, Heather?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.